Missing a bolt, which isn't the end of the world, but I don't know what that's all about. Okay, cool. I got a couple of bolts. I'll hold it to the dash. Get that lined up. There we go. Due to the body drop, that is really super close. Right there. See where it's rubbing? It's not an issue though. I mean, we'll figure it out. So at least that's marked off the list as far as it should still work. So I've got the dash in, got the steering wheel in, columns back in. You can actually steer this thing from the cab, which will make it a lot easier to push. With the additional weight of the engine and transmission, moving those front wheels and tires by hand with a person on each side, it's a backbreaker. So that's huge. We can, go back and forth as we need to. I do need to run next door and harvest some more parts off of the Explorer. I want to get the shifter linkage cable. I want to get the throttle cable. I think I want to get maybe any bracketry that I can use. I might have to hack it to get it off of there because I don't want to end up pulling that whole dash out. I'm not going to do that. That's silly. I want to get the airbags because we just collect airbags. We're going to do something with them in the future for sure. I think we got like 6 or 8 of them now. All right, so all of this factory linkage, this and this and this, it can go away. I just ground that off because I didn't feel like taking this apart. And I'm gonna use the shaft. I just won't use those linkages. So I'm gonna put this back on, hopefully, if I don't fall in this thing. So now we got a shaft that will rotate and pivot, and I can put the Explorer shifter linkage under the dash. Runs all the way down, and when you do this, it spins that shaft. The shifter cable will pop onto that. Think about cutting this here and then just welding that to that shaft. Go on. And what this is the bracket out of the Explorer that holds the cable under the dash. It will come around, it will loop into that, clips into here, and this distance is from the end of the cable to the shifter mechanism. Take a look at things underneath here. Take a look at the cable path, where I think it should come through the firewall for all this to work. It's going to be an educated guess on all of it. Slide under here and take a look at what we got going on. Ow, I hate metal in my hands. Ow. Oh yeah. That part? No. This is part. Under the column, put a hole here, and that would put it here. Oh yeah, this is gonna work. I'll completely block that off. Huh. I gotta think about this for a second. Cut that little relief out of there to give more stroke to that arm, and that's where I'll weld that piece on. Okay, so here's what we ended up with. You can see the Explorer bracket holding the cable coming in from the firewall, and then the linkage to the shifter arm I know that might look like it's out of whack there, but there's a ball joint in that piece that lets that arm pivot. See if I can do this and film. And then it goes all the way back. Now, all of this is, while it's in there, this is very temporary in the sense that we're going to pull the dash back out. I can finish weld everything and make sure everything's cool, but this is working for now. And the design of the thing is done. That's the way it's going to be. So, yeah. And then there's the relief I cut so that arm would articulate a little farther. Still got to get a brake pedal, gas pedal assembly I robbed out of the Explorer. So all I have to do is build a bracket, and all of the connections to the factory throttle cable will work. So yeah, that's where we're at. On to the next thing. So, day 2 of this week. I think I'm going to start with the radiator mount, try to get that knocked out. So I'm going to kind of mark on here where I want this, so to speak. Center. Center. All right, let's get this girl out of here. Ow, that's my head. Do 2 inches out from here. So make it whatever this distance is, which looks about like 2 inches, 4 inches with a lip bolted into here. Adjust your height down there at the bottom to bring the lip of the radiator equal with the core support. Found these body mounts we had to cut off during the process. This distance here is exactly 1.25 inches. So I'm going to use these. I'm going to weld them onto the core support, and these will be the new radiator supports. There is a threaded nut in the middle of these. I can still utilize those brackets, bend an L, drill a hole, bolt them to that, and they will actually cradle the radiator. So that's what I'm going to do. Couldn't have worked out better. Always keep your stuff, at least till you're done. Heck yeah, man. And these are the brackets that I originally made to hold the radiator. And I'm going to use these to be the sandwich pieces. So I'm going to build them. I got them clamped to this piece of 2-inch angle, and I'm going to bend them so there's like a channel. Hopefully those are pretty close. All right. So we're going to have a bend there. Factory hole right there. Like that. Let's cut that out and check that. Cut these 2 pieces out. I'm going to bend them here, bolt them there to these factory holes. One thing you got to remember, if you make the same pieces twice, and it's a left and a right deal, you actually got to flip one of them to have a left and a right. It's not a super big deal, and these are somewhat symmetrical, but you know, this is not a perfect deal. So if that's not flipped, you're going to notice it. And then you can tell I just drew where the bend's going to be, and then I just drew the little path I want to take with the feed roller. I'm going to use my bender. It's super cheap like everything else, but it works well on, especially on metals that are not so thick. Do them both at the same time even. Clamp this down. So this will bend this way, and this will bend this way. Let's just bend it. Actually really happy with the way it came out. It looks good. I went ahead and rattle canned that just to contrast it. I brushed this with Scotch Brite and then just sprayed clear over it, a matte clear for now. I'm not really sure what to do. I kind of like that. It almost makes it look like the radiator and those supports are the same piece. But yeah, so it took a little longer than I wanted, but I'm happy with it. Looks good. Radiator square. It is cheated just a smidge to help deal with that oil cooler we talked about earlier, but on to the next thing, whatever that is. Here, this is just the cross members from the factory floor that was rotted out. This stuff is still structurally sound, and it's got your seat mount brackets. That's what these cross beams are. I am gonna have to cut this because this will no longer, it's on the transmission yoke. That's what's keeping it from touching its mount spots. But I have 4 places that are mounted to the frame. Cut this out for the drive shaft path. We're gonna have to make a new tunnel and transcover anyway. Start getting this thing tied in again. Try to just pick a spot that's on both pieces instead of measuring it. I've always done it, and I'll show you what I'm using, what I think is straight. You can tell this little dip in right here. It's on both sides, so that's where I put my line. That way it's about equal. Close enough. I know it's kind of an illusion with that piece of floor still in it, but I had a dip in that started there and starts there on both sides. So that'll be where I cut it. So now our floor is in 2 pieces. Which should hopefully make this a little easier. I do have new hardware for the body mounts. Let me grab that stuff. The main focus here is keeping that seat mount in place so we can utilize the factory seat frames. Go ahead and mark where it needs to be prepped. But for today's project, we're just going to work on what we need to work on. I'm going to grab some ear protection. Joke around about it, but I know my hearing has declined over the last 2 years minimum, just from this mess. So. I couldn't find anything exactly 2 1/4, so I got this 2-inch piece of square tubing and what used to be a tailgate strip for a GMC square body we bought a long time ago. And it's extruded aluminum. It's a 1/4 inch thick, which is pretty excessive for a tailgate strip, but that's what they used. Anyway, this 2 together will be 2 1/4. I can't imagine somebody doing that now, but that was probably done in the 80s, back when aluminum was cheap. All right, so I put the piece on there, made one cut. That way this matches pretty good, close enough to weld. I'm thinking about maybe doing some cuts like that to kind of, because this isn't going to touch anyway, so. These aren't welded to the car yet, but these are the pieces. They're all touch in, it's bolted in, both sides. And then these are the factory humps. And right here, just gotta build these. It's welded underneath, that's why that looks so trashy there. That's welded on top. Yeah, so can weld that right there, weld this right here, and then the seat mounts there. This will be good. This is good structure. I know it looks bad because of the rust, but it's super strong still. So as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to make these little spacers to raise that, and it's just looking kind of ratchet. I'm not happy with it. But what I noticed was the rear section, the hump, is exactly the correct height I need for the front. So I'm gonna replace the front section with the rear section. Even though the widths aren't the same, it's gonna work. I don't have to fabricate anything. I can just make it fit. It's gonna be a huge time saver. There's about a 1/2 inch around that yoke. So I don't really know why I wouldn't use it. And I don't really know why the audio didn't record on this. So that's why I'm doing this. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We're moving the back hump to the front, and then I'll build a back hump later. So here's what we got. I've got the hoop, drive shaft loop welded in to the cross member, and then I added some little plates there with bung holes, and welded it solid. So that's done. It's got good clearance around the around the drive shaft. You see those little doodads, and the floor will mount to this. And then, like I said, I still got this one to do. Kind of want to wait till the drive shaft's in to do that. We can do this back part, and there's some mounts there, and then there's one over here, the same spot. So we can mount the back section, we can mount the front section, we can build floor. I'll have seat mounts. we can get a seat in here, can actually drive it, get the drive shaft, and then build the floor around that. I can eyeball it all I want. I mean, it goes from there to there. But I'd really rather have the drive shaft in before doing it. It's not anything fancy. It looks trashy, but it's really turned out well, actually. I mean, for what I did. Keep where the factory seats mount, and that's all intact. So none of this is welded yet. It's just sitting on there, but everything's ready to be welded. Like I said, I've got this section from about here to there. I don't know if it catches that mount or not. If it doesn't, that'll be an easy spot to connect to also. So it's been a dirty weekend without a big payoff.